Hey everybody, this is Lynette. Welcome to 13 Moons Homestead. The next project we're going to highlight in our video series here is our orchard. We just purchased this homestead a couple of months ago, and we had pears and apples in full fruit when we got here on a couple of trees, and we've identified at least also a peach tree and one tree that might be a cherry. So we're going to show you what we already have and the challenges we have with what's already here, and talk about what we want to do with our orchard going forward. So our orchard is located at what is the back of our house, but it is on the side of our property. So when you come up our driveway, this is to the left. Here's the house over here. The driveway. Our back door that goes into the garage. You can see the greenhouse up there in the distance. So this is at the bottom of the slope for our orchard. So in the foreground here you can see a couple of trees. The first one immediately in front is an apple tree. It was in full fruit when we got here, but it was not labeled. The closest I could find is that it's a Paula Red or something similar to that, and it looked and tasted basically like that, like a cross between a Cortland and a McIntosh. Really good apples, and this tree was prolific. It clearly needs some pruning. It hasn't been in some time, and there's quite a lot of excess crossing branches going on there. And also, and I'll show you a bit later, all of the fruit tree trunks are filled with little holes from sapsuckers, which are woodpecker-like things, except they eat the sap rather than the insects. So that is an apple, and then the one up and to the left of it is also an apple, but I couldn't identify what kind it was. I don't know that it's in its healthiest state. It did produce quite a lot of apples, but they were very small, not very useful even to eat. It would have been, maybe 3 bites, but they were not crab apples. So I don't know if it made small apples because the tree's not healthy, or if that's a tree that makes small apples. So we have more research to do on that one. I'm not sure if it's worth saving or not. And then one that you can't see is kind of not very well anyway, and I'll take you closer in a bit. It's right here, kind of behind and beside it, and it's tucked back into the tree line right at the edge of our property, and it's kind of being crowded by some evergreens, and it is a pear tree, a Bosc style pear tree. Bosc pears are not my favorite, but it did produce pears, and they were good. They were good, healthy pears for the most part, but it does need some judicious pruning, and it needs the space around it to be cleared out if we're going to save that tree. And now I'll take you a little further up the orchard so we can see the next portion of it. So here's a better look at that Bosc pear tree. You can see at the base it is surrounded by blackberry brambles, and they even grow up into the canopy a bit. And there's quite a bit of moss on the lower levels of this tree, and just so many branches. It definitely needs some good pruning. And you can see it's also running into the Douglas fir tree that is beside it, and there are some behind also. This is the division, this is the property line. You can kind of see back here the roof of a building. That's our neighbor. So we can only trim back to a certain point. You can see over here is a post. There's a fence that goes back, so we can only trim things on our side of the fence. So we'll have to see how that goes. Bosc pears are not my favorite pear. They do make a pretty good pear butter though, so I'm not sure. We'll see if we can keep that or not. And then scanning over here to look up the orchard again. We're several feet forward from where we were in the beginning of the video, and you can see here that there are some espaliered trees. This one in the front is a Bartlett pear, and the pears were very good and it produced very well, but because they espaliate it, the production is limited. So here's kind of a closer look of that pear tree. It's espaliered on 2 levels, and there are definitely some water shoots at the top. I'm not sure if I could get a 3rd level out of it or if that would be useful. So, you know, these 4 branches basically are, you know, that's all we're getting pears off of on this tree. They're fantastic, big juicy pears, but there's only so many of them. And the placement of these espaliers is right down the middle of the orchard area, and I'm not sure that that's really the best way to handle it. There's another espalier tree up here just a bit beyond, right there, that is a Honeycrisp apple. Also amazing fruit on it this year, but again, because they espaliate it and they've been trimming it that way, it's limited. It's only ever going to be able to give us so much of a harvest. So again, I'm not sure if that is worth keeping or not. It's kind of right in the middle of things. There's a giant stump here that really could go away. I mean, it's kind of interesting looking, but it's mostly rotten and it's in the way. And then over here by the house, there's more slope, and there was up in the corner there, but between the greenhouse and the house, a very large laurel shrub and also rhododendron, and we're in the process of pulling those out along with a lot of other vegetation, because the windows that you see there are for our downstairs area. This is a split level home, and the window on the left is our guest bedroom, and the next one is a bathroom, and those windows need to be kept clear for, you know, potential escape routes in case of fire or something. And also the vegetation was so grown up that it was, you know, we don't want it to attract rodents and then following the rodents, snakes. I really don't want them in the house at all. So we need to fix that. There's a lot of ground cover in here too that needs to come out, and down towards the bottom there's mint that has gone out of control. I will definitely save and repot some of it, but like, that is way too much mint. We do not need that. So this whole area will get cleaned up, and then I think it could be used for dwarf fruit trees or blueberry bushes, or, you know, things like that, as well as this area where the current espaliered trees are. So let me take you up the orchard just a little bit more and show you the other end. This tree right here with the white band on it is marked as a peach tree. It was past peach season when we got here. There was one fruit still left hanging on it. So I don't know, it did seem to be a full-size fruit and it seemed to be healthy. But I don't know how much fruit this tree produced last year. It seems to be kind of in the best shape of any of the trees that we have. So next to that peach tree there, come up to the very end of the orchard, and there's this large island of shrubs. I don't know what they are. They had leaves but no flowers or anything when we got here and a tree there at the side. I'm guessing, well, there's at least one thing in there somewhere that is a rhododendron. There are rhododendrons all over this property. It's kind of an absurd amount. So this little island of stuff, unless it's surrounding something in the center that I haven't been able to see yet, I just don't see any reason for it to be there. It's blocking open area where we could put more fruit or something else productive, more garden beds or something. So probably that whole area will be removed, but I'm trying to wait until spring and see what flowers there, if there's things that I want to transplant, or if I can just cut them down. Mostly I'd be interested if anything is a lilac bush. That is my favorite flower. So we'll see what happens with that. And I'll span back around here. You can see the espaliered Honeycrisp apple and the area between the greenhouse and the house there. And come back around and look down the orchard. So now I'll take you back down to the bottom and I'll show you some of the damage by the sapsucker birds. Almost forgot to show you this one last tree here that is very close to the steps to the deck. It was not bearing fruit at the time that we got here, but it looked like the leaves indicated that it might be a fruit tree, and I asked an arborist friend, and he said he thinks it is a cherry tree. So potentially we also have a cherry tree. It is far too close to the deck steps, but the deck, I don't know if you can really tell. It's a glorious sized deck. It wraps around the end of the house in front of the big wall of windows that's upstairs. But it is not installed correctly, and it is deteriorating also. So the steps are not safe, and the deck itself also needs to be replaced. So that is going to be another big project, and we will talk about that in another video. But the point was that we can move the steps away from the cherry tree if it is indeed a cherry tree. So here I can show you kind of up close on, this is the apple tree that produces the really small apples. The sapsucker damage is all over this tree. All of those little holes are caused by a bird. I mean, the tree seemed to produce very well, so I don't know that this has actually harmed its ability to produce fruit all that much, but I'm not sure going forward. I don't know how old this damage is, but it seems like it's probably been here a while. And it is also on the other apple tree and on the Bosc pear tree. So then down here at the bottom of the orchard is also this tree that I didn't show you before. It was not bearing any fruit when we got here, when we closed on the house in September. It kind of looks like it might be rotting, so that tree probably will come out no matter what it is. It's kind of in the way. I don't see any purpose for it there. And there's this structure at the end of the orchard that I'm assuming was probably a hitching post. This used to be a horse farm, but I'm thinking it might make a good basis to string up some grapevines potentially. So we might use that, or we might tear it out and expand into the yard there next to the barn, unless we decide to use that area for some animals. The only thing that might prevent us from doing that is that we don't know where the drain field is yet for the septic. We think that the tank is right here, which is kind of in the middle of the orchard. So I'm not positive that that's the tank. If it is, I don't know how these, or why these trees were planted right here, or where the drain field is, if it's there in front of the barn or if it's beyond the barn in the pasture. I just don't have the answers yet. We need to make some phone calls. So that gives you a basic idea of the space that we have that probably will continue to be an orchard and what we want to do with it. We definitely want to plant more fruit trees. I would like to have more peach, more pear, probably a different kind of apple, a plum. And then I definitely want bushes too. We want currants and blueberries for sure. And maybe some of the less common berries, things you don't just find in the grocery store. And we want grapes. So we know that fruit usually takes, between 3 and 5 years sometimes to really be truly fruitful. So those are things we want to investigate soon and plant appropriately. So those are decisions that we want to make on how we use this space for fruit. Or if we choose a different space. Or another space. Thanks everybody for coming along with us today as we explore the orchard on our new homestead. If you would like to follow along with our journey, then hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified anytime that I upload a new video. And if you liked this video, please hit the thumbs up and leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Anything that you know about fruit trees and fruit bushes, any kind of fruit would be fantastic. We live in the Pacific Northwest and I can take any advice that you can give for pruning or planting or anything. So let us know below and share this video with your friends. All of those things help us grow our channel. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.